KP here. Welcome to Kevin Pratt's Volleyball Podcast. A current PE teacher, Bishop's boys varsity head coach, volleyball recruiting coordinator, and writer for vballrecruiter.com and Volleyball Magazine. On the podcast, KP will be interviewing coaches, directors, and athletes to discuss various volleyball topics. Enjoy the show. KP, take it away.
KP here, and I have a wonderful treat for you fans. We are talking to Coach Sato of USC Volleyball. Coach Sato, why don't you introduce yourself to the fans, and thanks for joining the podcast.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me, KP. My name's Gary Sato. I've been coaching at USC for 9 years as an assistant coach, and I've been all over the world coaching, and I just love it. It's a passion.
Yeah, definitely. I've had the pleasure of working some camps with you, had a lot of long conversations. You have been around the game, many different spots. Why don't we start it back in the day when you got involved in Santa Monica Community College? That's where you got your start collegiately. What was it like being a community college athlete? And would you mind kind of doing a plug for community college volleyball, because that's an avenue kids could go down that they sometimes don't know about?
Oh yeah, it's a great way to go. You know, it just so happened to be 3 blocks from my house growing up in Santa Monica, which was really convenient. And my story in going there was that I didn't have great grades, and we'll get into that going down the road about how it takes the athletes now. You have to have super grades to get into at least our institution, and Stanford and MIT and Harvard and such like that. So I'm the first generation of kids to go in my family to college. So I didn't have any role models, but I mean, that's not an excuse. All my other friends were pretty smart and they were making plans, but I didn't know about going to college. So I ended up going to Santa Monica College and playing for a year. And a lot of coaches had asked me about playing at the intercollegiate level for universities, and so I just had to go to school, get good grades, and I went for a summer at Santa Monica College. I played for the season, and I went to the summer school again, and was able to transfer only the specific units that you need to get into school. And I ended up going to UC Santa Barbara. But I was recruited to go to UCLA, but that's too close to my house. So I decided to go to Santa Barbara, and Santa Barbara at that time in the 70s where it was the place to be. You know, they had fantastic support and a good fan base and a really good team. So I ended up at Santa Barbara. I played there for 3 years.
Yeah, that's a great story. And I know you're an advocate for community college volleyball. In Southern California, we got a sweet little league. There's about 10 or 12 schools, and now there's a community college popping up on the East Coast, and you're a great product of that. And there's plenty of names. I know Costi at Stanford was involved in community college, Niffin at UCI. There's so many great stories. Riley Salmon was a community college guy. So it definitely is an avenue for you athletes out there. You don't have to just go straight to an SC or Penn State or UCLA. And Coach Gary was a product of that. So after you go to Santa Monica, Santa Barbara, did you get immediately into coaching after that, or did you continue playing, or what was your?
So you have 5 years to play for. And so I played the 1 year at Santa Monica College, and then I played 3 at Santa Barbara. And I actually had more school that I had to take care of to graduate. But at that time, I got recruited by Rudy Sawara, who was coaching men's volleyball at San Diego State at the time. And he actually was the one that recruited me to UC Santa Barbara, but he left to go to San Diego State. And so he was down there coaching, but he recruited me to come help him and as a grad assistant. And then so did Marv Dunphy. Marv Dunphy was at Pepperdine. And I ended up choosing Pepperdine because of a number of reasons. One is because it is 30 minutes from my house in Santa Monica where I grew up, because it's out in Malibu. And then it gave me a chance to be close to my family and see my 5 younger brothers and sisters growing up and playing volleyball as well. So yeah, because when I played at Santa Barbara, they would all come up and watch me play. My family mom and dad would pile them in a van and drive them all the way up there, and they'd have a great time. And so it was just a big family affair. So uh, anyway, so that's what happened. I chose to go to Pepperdine as a grad assistant with Marv Dunphy. We won the NC2A championship, and then I was bitten by the bug. I was hooked.
Yeah. It is funny that you mentioned that because your family is so awesome and tight and in the volleyball world. You mentioned that they go and see you at Santa Barbara. Literally, a few decades later, or more, they're at UC San Diego when I'm watching the match, and you're coaching for SC, and your family's in the stands supporting you, and your brother's there, and you've always had that family support. And there's so many Satos um, in the volleyball world. Can you kind of just, I know you're a humble guy, but so our viewers know, how many Satos right now are involved in volleyball?
Oh boy, let's see. My my I'll go down the line. My brother Glenn was he's a math teacher at the junior high school we went to. We call it John Adams, the Academy of Spiking. But he was coaching at Santa Monica High School with my sister Leanne. So boys and girls volleyball. So those two are involved. And then my brother Eric is coaching somewhere down in San Diego. I'm not exactly sure because I know he has camps and he hopes at Grossmont College. And he used to coach at Francis Parker a long time ago. So he's still in the community playing coaching volleyball down there. My son Andrew, who played at Long Beach State, and he coached he volunteered the same as you at Nebraska, and he was at Berkeley and San Antonio College, I think it was called University of San Antonio. Anyway, yeah, but now he's at Cal State Fullerton as an assistant coach. And then my let's see who else. My niece Blossom, my sister Leanne's daughter, is currently at Pepperdine as an assistant coach for women's volleyball. So we're still doing that. And then I might add my mom and dad, who both passed away in the last 5 years, but my mom was inducted into the Southern California Hall of Fame because she was a scorekeeper and did a lot of the collegiate matches at USC, Pepperdine, I think sometimes at UCLA.
Yeah, you guys are a big name in the volleyball community. Once you got involved with Coach Dunphy at Pepperdine, when did you kind of start working with USA Volleyball? Because I know you were big in USA Volleyball, and can you kind of let the fans know about that?
Well, let's see. How did it go? Now USA Volleyball, I think, there are a lot of opportunities for young coaches to get involved. You just got to contact somebody, get your name in the hat, and do some of the different go through those different channels that they have, the under 19 team, the under 21 team, the things like that, national team development program, be a coach at one of those. So I was part of the after winning the NC2A championship at Pepperdine. This was 1978, mind you. They had the very first, it's now called the Olympic Festival, or not called the Olympic Festival anymore, but where they had kids from all over the United States come to Colorado Springs, the training center, and compete north, south, east, and west. And of course, in those days, most of the team good players were from the West, and so I was coaching guys like Hovland, Karch Karai, Dusty Dvorak, Randy Stoklos, all those names from the guys in the 80s that were really great volleyball players. But and a lot of them are still involved in the game now too. But we won, so I just started getting that habit of winning, and it was a lot of fun. So I just kept trying to figure out how to do more and more. But so that's how I got started with USA, the system. And then Marv and I coached a World University Games team, and I think we, out of like 10 teams, we came in 8th. We were in Bucharest, Romania, and that was a lot of fun. That was my one of my first international experiences. But it's really neat because the World University Games is really similar to the Olympics. So if you're going to train, it's good to go to a multi-sport event that has matches every other day, and then you get a chance to be in the village and experience that. So it's great training, and so I hope we continue to participate in the World University Games. But so that's how I got started in the international thing, and then I stopped coaching to go to chiropractic school.
Yep.
But kind of a funny story was Marv Dunphy had left Pepperdine to can pursue his graduate degree, his master's I think it was master's, and he was at BYU, and he's asked me. He said, "Hey, you want to coach the national team? You ever think about it?" And I said, nah, no, I'm not, because I was getting ready to go to chiropractic school.
Yeah.
And then I said, well, but I missed, working with him. So I said, but if you were coaching it, I'd try to help you. And then I didn't think he was going to go to San Diego to train the team or to become the coach, because I thought he was just coming back to Pepperdine, place that he loves. And so he called me about 2 or 3 months later out of the blue and says, "Hey, I took the job." And I said, "What are you talking about? What job?" And he said, the U.S. national team. And then I said, "Oh shit." What, to myself, when I say something, I want to keep my word. And so I said, "Oh, well, I guess I got to go. What do I have to do?" And he said, "Well, you got to go down and apply." So
Yeah.
I interviewed with Doug Beal, who I think did a fantastic job, 1984, winning the gold medal at the Olympics, and showing the rest of the United States and the world that the United States could win a gold
Yeah.
medal.
Yeah. No, that's incredible. I mean, it's really cool even for me who knows all these stories for the most part, but just to really sit down and hash it out. And it's like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't realize you were looking at San Diego State too, not only Pepperdine, and all these little stories are how Coach Dumpy got you on staff. Like that's awesome. So with all that national experience, I know that you had an opportunity later in your career to work with the Japanese national team. Could you touch up on that, how that happened, and maybe talk about the different cultures and how volleyball is trained a little differently between USA and Japan?
Sure. Well, it's a kind of a long road, because after doing the quad and in the '88 Olympics, we won, but along the way, right after the Olympics in '84, there's a World Cup, and that happens to be in Japan, and then the year after that, the World Championship, that was in France, and then and these are all big volleyball events. Everyone is familiar with the Olympics, but the World Championship is much more renowned because in volleyball circles, because it's more countries participate in that. So anyhow, we won the World Cup in '85, and it's kind of a funny story that Marv was unable to go, so I had to take the team I'm going to say at a pretty young age by myself over there. And at that time, the budget was such that we didn't have another assistant coach, and they assigned one to me. They found one to come along, and then his name is Jim Coleman. And Jim
Okay.
Coleman, rest in peace, passed away a while ago, but he was like a walking, talking encyclopedia of volleyball. Older gentleman, and I took to him, uh, because I was so eager to learn, and he knew the guys from the past and the present and all the history. So that was a lot of fun. So I asked him tons of questions on all the rides. But we ended up winning the World Cup, and I got voted most valuable coach in the international things, and that's kind of a first one for the United States, and that's kind of a trivia question. Not too many people know about that. And then we won the World Championship. And then we won the Pan Am Games. And then, of course, we culminated in winning the Olympics in '88. So then after that, I went to chiropractic school, which takes 3.5 years. But then I was able to come back in '92 and work with Fred Sturm and John Cook for the Olympics then that were in Barcelona, Spain. And then I went and did chiropractic forever. But Alan Knipe became the head coach for the USA team in 2009. After the team won the gold medal in 2008, he became the head coach, and he contacted me and said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping me?" And I said, geez, because like in everything, you're always looking for a win-win. And it
Yeah.
just so happened to be at a great time in my life to be able to do it. So my kids were more grown up, and I went and did that quad for London in 2012. And during that time period, the Japanese Federation had identified me and started talking to me about coaching the team. And so
Yeah.
that then, long story short, I ended up being the head coach for a year, and I took David Hunt over with me as an assistant, and we made some changes. And I'm going to say, long story short, bringing in a foreigner, being me and David, opened the door for the Japanese Federation to make some drastic changes, because before it was so traditional that they only allowed Japanese nationals to coach the team, and they felt like it stunted their growth a little bit. But since they brought me in, uh, it allowed them. I kind of like broke the chain. So then they were able to get other coaches to come in and send their players outside of their country to get experience, which they didn't want to do that before. They thought it was they thought the players that went over there from their country were kind of like bad eggs,
Mm.
but yet they would come back and they'd be improved players. So now they do it on a regular basis, and as you can see, they've been doing really well in the past
Yeah.
past
Yeah.
year.
Well, you definitely have a ton of experience, and I think every university has its perks and everyone has their stories. And one of my favorite guys to talk to when I go to the, nationals and stuff is you're so kind to just sit down and I get to pick your brain and hear all these kind of stories and stuff. So after you were with the Japan national team, how did the connection go with Coach Nygaard to get involved with USC?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when I came back, I had some time, so I did a little bit more chiropractic, but my daughter Katie was a freshman at Cal State University Northridge, playing for Jeff Stork, who was a junior college product, who was on our national team and Olympic teams for, I don't know, 2 or 3 Olympics. And he was a coach at Cal State Northridge. And so I volunteered to help coach because it was I think their first year of their beach program. So I volunteered to coach on the beach, which was fun. And I enjoyed it and had a good time. But meanwhile, Jeff Nygaard became the head coach for USC. He was an assistant there with Bill Ferguson, and he became the head coach. And he contacted me because I'm going to say, just like Alan, we had crossed paths at a previous time where I coached a little bit, coached Alan for a little bit, but Jeff, we played together one year at the Open Nationals. It just kind of like by a fluke. I ended up setting for 2 days and until Kenya Seaman came, and we ended up winning the championship, the Open Nationals in San Jose. But so I got to know Jeff a little bit, and then I guess he just figured, hey, let's get someone with some experience and
Yeah.
help him out, and that's he contacted me, and it's right down the street from my house once again, and it was a win-win.
Yeah, one thing I like that Coach Nygaard does is he seems to have a good grip on who to hire, and it seems like your staff's intact right now and doing some good stuff. But he always has a good blend, and I think when he's talked to me about it, like just your experience alone, internationally and winning as the Pepperdine coach, being a Division I guy, community college player, and then he's had guys like Todd Hollenbeck, and now he's got Rory in there. And I think it's a good mix because if you're a student athlete and you walk in, you're like, okay, you got a former Olympian, AVP, really successful UCLA coach, and they got you that you have a ton of experience. So those kids are getting trained real well. I think Coach Nygaard does a good job at that. What have you seen the difference between, because you've been with Coach Nygaard all 9 years. And so what have you seen the difference between SC when he took over and what you're seeing now? What are some of the positives that have been going on at SC for your volleyball program since you've been there with him?
That's a good question. I think experience. plays a huge part, because Jeff had not been a head coach before. And so to be a head coach, there's also the responsibilities uh, administratively and so on and so forth that you don't really think about it. When people think about coaching, they only see the fun part. They only see you at the games and the matches and all the the bells and whistles, but they don't know all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So Jeff, being a new head coach, he had to adjust to handling all the different facets of coaching, like the academics and the just ton of stuff. And so now he's much more comfortable with that. And also the good balance, like you said, of coaching with like Rory Prager is wonderful recruiter, and he's got a good beat on communicating with the younger guys. So I might not have anything to say with the younger guys except for talking about volleyball. But he's got a good beat on it, as well as Paul Martinez is another assistant coach now. He's been with us for a couple years, and so those guys are they're just more in tune with the young athletes, and I do think athletes have changed due to lots of different things like pandemic and technology, so forth, so on and so forth. So we're striving to get the culture right and get that real good mix and balance. But yeah, so I think Jeff has evolved and become more open to some things and able to deal with a lot more facets of the job.
Yeah, I've worked a few of your camps. I've been around Coach Nygaard, and I just think that one thing I admire about your staff, if you really look at your staff about what you guys have accomplished in the game as players, as beach players, and at universities, and you guys are all about just growing the game. You'll talk to anyone if you have time, and you never one up anyone. And I think that's also important for your university, because your university is a huge brand, and some people have opinions about big branded universities, and you guys, I think, have a great blend and a good sense of what you guys are doing, and you do a lot of things that help grow the game. What are some of the items you do you're one of the main assistant coaches? What are your day-to-day operation jobs? Recruiting, training the kids, study hall. What's on your docket every day when you go to SC?
Well, it's always changing, but there are some things that have stayed the same. And one of the things that happens is because I've coached or played, against a lot of the current players' dads or granddads or something like that. So I do reach out and contact a lot of the alumni, and let them know, keep them up to date on what's going on and things they can participate in, and so on and so forth. And then the parents as well of the players, I keep them abreast of what's going on. I help run this tournament we have in the fall with all the universities coming, and we play all day. So I'm coordinating that kind of thing, and also we have a 4-man sand fundraiser, which we honor a former athlete and male and female, and then we have a good day, and usually on homecoming. So that's a good time. But that's just part of the I'm going to say the community. But as far as volleyball, it's training and preparing the players to perform their best, and helping to coordinate with our nutritionist, sports psych, athlete, the trainer, and our strength and conditioning person, and making sure compliance, all these pieces are tied together. So some oversight with that regard. But as it's evolved, I think I'll be, because of my I'm going to say medical history of chiropractic, I'll be this year more in contact with our athletic trainer, talking about the athletes and their ailments, or their rehab, so on and so forth. And I think Rory will be talking more with our academic people and dealing with that now,
Yeah.
as well as planning practices and such. So Rory plans a lot of the practices, and I shoot ideas to him, and we bounce things back and forth, and then we meet as a staff and hash through these things and and try to, because we're like a teaching program. The game has to be taught with progressions and so on and so forth, and you know uh, I don't think we're giving away any trade secrets, but process is a really crucial part of coaching.
Well, I admire when I worked a few camps with you guys. I thought it was really cool. Coach Nygaard and you and the staff sat down and you guys watched a game and you showed them basically like a laser pointer, like, this is what a film session looks like, guys. This is what the cues we talk about. And it was like pretty high level, like, and I felt the kids were really engaged. And those camps are constantly jumping, constantly hitting, so it was kind of cool for about 20 or 30 minutes for them just to focus on that. But I agree. I think that you guys are teachers. I think you guys are in there coaching also, but you're teaching them the game. And even the highest level players at your collegiate level, they still got to learn a lot, and you guys are teaching them a lot. So another question I have for you is, I get called all the time with what I do, and the four most universities that are talked about is UCLA, Penn State, Ohio State, and USC. And kids, and I don't ever want to curb their enthusiasm. That's where they want to go, and that's where they want to go right out of the gate, which is great. What advice would you give to like a freshman right now listening that is relatively new to the game or eighth grade? What does it take to, get to that highest level? What recommendations would you make? Because they have a little time to get better and go through the process.
Yeah. Well, like I mentioned earlier, is you got to make sure in the academic piece, you got to be on top of it. And I think a lot of the kids in volleyball might be going out on a limb here, but I think they get pretty good grades.
Yep.
So that's almost a no-brainer. But the better grades you get, the better off you are. It's easier for you to get into school, as well as there are only at our schools that you're talking about. There's only like 4.5 scholarships.
Yeah.
For like a 20-man roster, and so depending on all the different variables, you have to have good grades, because you might even qualify for an academic scholarship. And an academic scholarship might be more than we would be able to offer you as an athletic scholarship. So, you balance it and you do it that way. So, I would say, number one, your grades have to be good. And number two, you gotta play volleyball and be best you can be in great shape. You eat, breathe, sleep volleyball. And that's the kind of kids I like, but there are a lot of other things in life, and other opportunities. But I like the volleyball.
Yeah.
We call them ballers. I like the ballers.
Yeah. For me, when kids ask me that, I go, look, I never want to curb your enthusiasm. Let's put that as the big goal. And every kid should dream big, and you should have lofty goals. Every kid should. I think, though, also you talked about the word process, and it's like, hey, you're in eighth grade. You're a freshman. Let's enjoy the process. Let's get really good day one at a time at volleyball. Let's get better at this aspect of volleyball. Let's crush our grades. And then if you continue to get better and better and better and get to a level that is, if you get to a level that is USC, they'll find you, So would you agree with that, where sometimes kids just got to not necessarily just like think of the end result and just play in the moment and get better at that?
Yeah. I just think, you got to be the best you can be. And if you're good enough, it works out. But the other thing is, you got to find that balance of how important is it the school or is it the volleyball program? Can you make both of those mix? I mean, it might be a reason you want to go to that school is because because your parents went to school there or relatives went to school there, well then fine, get into school and go there. You might not make the volleyball team,
Yeah,
but go to school there. What's the balance? So uh, yeah, you got to find out what to make it a win-win.
for sure. Definitely. So when you get, I am sure you, Coach Nygaard, Coach Rory are just absolutely flooded with emails every day. Uh, what are you kind of looking for? What's some advice you'd give to an athlete that sends you film? Do you want a whole match? Do you want just a little snippet of them playing? What are things you like to see?
Okay, well, me personally, I like to see as much uh, information, statistical information in terms of, what year in school that you're graduating, what position, your size, how tall you are, you know, uh, and then as far as film goes, it's always nice to see highlights, but because everybody hits the ball in if you're a hitter, or every pass is perfect because those are the ones that get edited. So then, I like the information about when you're going to be playing, so then I can, if you're going to be at the SoCal Cup or if you're going to be at the AAUs and things like that, that stuff's helpful. And as far as and just to make it as easy as possible for us to just glance at it and catch that information about your contact, your references, that type of stuff. I think it's the simpler the better, but just the pertinent information.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because obviously, as you know, last 4 or 5 years, I've been talking to coaches like yourself. I will say this, like, you guys are way more similar than different, but there's certain things are like, hey, if you're going to contact Coach Sato, this is what he really likes, and it doesn't mean they get to play for SC. No, not absolutely not. But it might mean that, hey, if you have your ducks in a row, you can make it more simplistic and Coach Sato can keep an eye on that. You mentioned references. I think it's good if you have people connected with SC that are helping you. If you're a recruit. And so I think that recruits, you really got to study and do your homework. And is there anything when these guys email you? Is it the same kind of thing? You just want to see their club, you want to see their height, their grades. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, and they're high school and who their coaches are and such like that. But one thing I think it's important that they proofread it so that it doesn't say, the wrong coach or the wrong. I've been dying to play at and mention the wrong university, that kind of stuff. That's kind of like, oh wow, I've just been form lettered, but
Yeah.
which is okay. But be accurate and proofread, and then I think that helps.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they're basically doing a job interview with you guys. I know it's just a simple email, and they might be writing you their freshman year, but at the end of the day, if they truly want to go to USC, which is one of the best universities in the country, they're going to be required to get it done in the classroom. And part of getting it done in the classroom is you got to pay attention to detail. And it's crazy. It's a lot what we're asking of these kids because they're 15 and 16 years old, but they got to pay attention to detail on that stuff. And one thing I will say, like Coach Gary's great about, is you are forgiving about those things. I've had students written you, and I've been on those emails as a reference, and they've said something like, "We're so excited to go to Grand Canyon," and like, yeah, that is a red flag, but I think that student athletes, they have to pay attention to detail. But luckily, like, I know your staff, I can speak highly of you guys. Like, you're in a profession where you're teaching these kids and you're understanding, but you don't want kids doing that all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. So what, I have some questions from the fans that DM me. So I think that'd be good to ask those. I do that with it. So this was from a parent that follows me on KP Recruiter. They said, you've been around coaching for a while. Who are some of the best players you've gotten to coach?
Who are some of the best players I've gotten to coach?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I would say the oh my God. They're 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 just Yeah. The you know what makes me laugh? I'll tell you is when I see a coach and they say, yeah, I've coached these many All-Americans and I've coached this many guys that did this, and they name them all. Man, I don't have that kind of memory. I forget, that how many guys I've coached that are, but yeah, maybe the whole '88 team, the whole '92 team, the 2012 team, and you look up those rosters and see who was on them, and then there's also a lot of guys that weren't on the Olympic teams that I thought were excellent volleyball players, both male and female, and so yeah, I'm not even gonna name names, but they're if you said, oh, this guy, and I say, yeah, I probably coached him. Well, I'll tell you
Well,
this. At SC, there's a wall in the locker room that has all the Olympians from SC, and the only ones that I didn't coach were Dick Hammer, who's was the Marlboro man, and his son and daughter both played volleyball. One at Long Beach State and one at UC Santa Barbara. His daughter, and the daughter is the mother of Sam Darnold, the quarterback that
yeah.
was for USC. But so I didn't coach him because he's obviously a little older than me. And then Celso Colaci, who was a Brazilian Olympian for two, because we competed against each other. And then all the other guys after that that were in the Olympics, I coached all of them. So
That's awesome. So
yeah.
that is a wealth of guys that are very skilled at the sport. Um, Another question from an athlete is, do you prefer that athletes when they're in middle school just focus on volleyball, or do you like dual athletes that are playing volleyball and other sports? What's your thoughts on that?
I think at a young age, I think it's great to play other sports. I mean, I was old enough to play all the sports that were in season during the time, but back then volleyball wasn't a priority. It was like only hippies and surfers played volleyball, but and girls. So
Yeah.
so 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 I think all the different sports uh, contributed to my development, and I think it can contribute to a lot of people's development. But it can also hinder them too if they don't master the skills in volleyball because they're playing basketball or volleyball. I mean, or you know, tennis or something. But yeah, there's some carryover from all the sports that I think it's valuable. But you got to get to hone your skills in volleyball to be good.
So this question was from a student athlete. When the incoming freshman class come to USC, what in the last couple of years have you noticed that there's things that they need to continue to develop on and they're a little bit behind? What are some things that freshmen come in and they're not doing very well? Which, if someone's listening, they could say, "Hey, I could focus on this to get better."
Okay, I'd say right off the bat, the time management piece. A lot of them is for the first time it's away from home, and they don't have mom waking them or dad waking them up every morning and helping them do this, helping them do that. They got to do it on their own, and they have all their classes they have to go to. At SC, we have tutors for every class, so there's another time management thing, and then we have practice every day and weightlifting. So it's not like club where you practice once or two nights a week and then you play all day on Saturday and then you recuperate Sunday and Monday and then practice Tuesday again and that type of stuff. It's day in, day out. It's a little bit almost like a job. So you got to love volleyball, but the time management piece is crucial. One of the biggest gaps too is the strength. 17 or 18-year-old guys are not going to be as strong as, more than likely, not as strong as the juniors or seniors that have been lifting within our program for a couple of years. And so that physical, and they're going to grow. So that physical aspect right there is a big and part of the grind. But you got to love and embrace the grind.
Yeah. So another question I got from a parent was, since your university is so academically inclined, it's a great academic institution, how does USC Athletics support their athletes to make sure they do well in the classroom?
Oh yeah, they. Oh, okay. So once again, I mentioned the tutor for every class. There's a tutor available for you for every class, um, as a freshman, all the way through your career there. You can have a tutor. But if you prove yourself as a student and decide, well, I don't want to have a tutor, then you can opt out of it after the first year. But at any time you could say, geez, I need some help in this class, and then you can get a tutor back. All right, so they provide that. We provide that, which is awesome. And not only that, there's most university football teams have a training table of food for the athletes, and SC has gone to the highest level allowable for the other sports, and so we have what is called fueling stations. So we'll get a chance to have meals in the morning, uh, post practice, smoothies with protein and other supplements, legal supplements that because that can help you recover, rehab injury, so on and so forth. So the nutritional piece is huge, and then in even most recent years, mental health has become a huge, I'm going to say buzzword, but they've increased the staff there. Not only do we have our sports psych people, but mental health counselors available for a lot of the kids that have maybe had to go. We all went through a pandemic, but didn't have interaction and so on and so forth uh, for a long period of time.
Yeah, and the last question I have from a fan is, it was from an athlete from Colorado. Should kids that are like juniors in high school right now really focus on, oh, they just recruited like 4 outsides or 3 setters? Does that mean I'm out of the equation? Is there a direct science how you guys do your recruiting? Is it case by case basis? How do you guys go about every year picking your
Yeah,
roster?
that's a good question. In an ideal world, you would be able to uh, pick and choose the best player every year, but that's not always the case. So you might skip a year and focus on the following year, but for that position. But you have to evaluate your roster, who's coming back, and how many years they have left, and all your needs. But if I think if you're good enough, chances are you're going to get recruited.
I agree with you 100% on that. And, you know, Coach Gary, before we sign off, do you have anything you want to add about the game of volleyball, or anything about maybe SC, or anything at all?
Well, I'll tell you that I always one of the things I've always said is you want to grow the game, and it's really neat for me to see so much more opportunity for people to pursue volleyball in one way, shape, or form. As a referee, as a scorekeeper, as a club director, as a coach, as a recruiting a coordinator. There and for people to make money at all those different levels. I always wanted volleyball to be a hobby, and in my mind it still is.
Yeah.
And but it just allowed me to travel the world and meet lots of fun people and have a good time, and it's play, a 4-letter word, play, instead of work. When so anyhow, I think I'm real grateful about that, and we try to uh, tell the kids about gratitude, and their attitude is everything. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
I've always appreciated you. I've known you now, I want to say, for about 10 years.
yeah,
I've been at camps with you. I've sat with you and watched games with you. I've been on the phone with you. And I just appreciate everything you do for the game. I mean, you are all about the game. You advocate for community college, high school, middle school, every part of the game you find valuable. you give shout outs to the referees, any of that. And I think you're just so good for the game. And I think for you youngsters watching, like, this is what you want to do. You want to get involved in the game, and there's so many different ways you could do it. So I really appreciate you, Coach Sato, for coming on. I will make sure I know the USC address, so I will make sure to be mailing you a KP's crew shirt before you know it. So thanks for joining me, and we'll have a good rest of the day.
All right, great. Thanks for having me, KP, and hope to see you at a game.
Awesome.